It's a trap! Hey kids, this is Ivan. How you doing? Wendell Conrad posted in the, I believe, the RPG Brigade Facebook page. He may have posted a couple other places as well about traps. And so, not surprisingly, there was quite a lively discussion about this because it can be a little bit of a contentious and emotionally charged subject. I posted in that thread, but I figured I'd make a video on this and talk and give my kind of perspective on traps and what have you, because heck, I'm interesting. My views are interesting, but just kind of wanted to put this down, talk about it a little bit. I guess for lack of a better word, I'm a little bit more a fan of kind of a simulationist sort of approach where the world makes sense. Maybe it's a different kind of world than this world, but it's internally consistent. There's reasons for things, and I think if a trap exists in the world, no matter what kind of game system you're playing, no matter what kind of genre, there should be a reason for it. Just because there's characters that have detect traps or remove traps on their character sheet doesn't mean there's supposed to be traps everywhere. It just means they're good at that should that happen. When it comes down to it, I'm sure there's other reasons that people set traps, but the big ones that I could come up with right off the bat were something like, first of all, like maybe like a Pharaoh type thing, where you're doing some tomb raiding, and then at some point they don't want you messing with the dead or with their tomb or whatever, and so it's that big cinematic Indiana Jones kind of moment where all hell breaks loose, and the big balls rolling down trying to crush you, and the darts are coming out of everywhere, and the temple's falling apart. That's cool stuff. That makes for great cinematic gaming. So I think that's kind of neat. So that would be, one of the bigger places you'd find, some kind of traps at some point. The other reason, though, is because somebody's looking to kill you, and maybe it's just because they're looking to protect something, or maybe it's like more like a Conan-esque type thing. You remember the original Conan movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger where they have that battle where they're outnumbered something like 20-1 or whatever it is. So they set all these little nifty traps there to kill the enemy and kind of bring the odds back in their favor. And of course, I've tried that, and my friends have tried that in games, and of course, it never worked as well for us as it did for Conan because, well, he's Conan, and weren't just that cool, but kind of cool. And then maybe like for deterrent or fear, because people know there's going to be traps in this area, so don't go there. And what I think about it all the time in terms of traps, and what kind of puts me in this mindset of what they should be like, to me in a game world. This is just for me. But just, my take on it is that if my character is setting a trap, because I certainly have done this as, player character, my intent is for that trap to be 100% lethal. I want you dead. Because either I'm trying to protect something, like I've got, I had a wizard and he set traps around his laboratory and library because he didn't want people messing with his stuff. It wasn't anything personal, just don't mess with my stuff. Or, I don't believe I set too many deterrent type traps, but, it's the idea that, you don't want people going there. Well, hey, they know there's something there. So don't mess around with it. And unfortunately, with those first type of things, I mean, you don't have to. You can turn on the news, and if you don't do that, just look to human history, and that's kind of realistic use of something like that. The only other time that I set a trap where my intent wasn't to kill somebody was when I was trying to capture something, like I was trying to capture a person or a particular monster. The usual quest for bring me back something else. No disintegrations, bring him back, but no disintegrations. You know what I mean? You're trying to capture somebody, bring him back alive. Other than that, my intent, for traps were to be pretty darn lethal. And so, I don't mind as a player, and I don't hold back necessarily as a game master, because, I think Matthew Colville said it the best, the bad guys want to win. So they're going to do what my character would do. And trust me, as a player, when I've set traps, they were intended to be lethal. And of course, I think when it comes right down to it, as far as our players are concerned, like what the concerns tend to be is, first of all, the idea that, you want to have the ability to be able to spot or detect traps. And I get that. And different games have different mechanics, and you certainly should be able to do that. However, you should be kind of looking for them. Depends on the game. But if you're running willy-nilly from point A to point B, and okay, well, maybe you're going to get in trouble. And generally, a good game master, if you've been engaged in the game, there's going to be some kind of indication you're heading into hostile territory. This is dangerous. That's how all these deterrent type traps work. Their intent really isn't even to kill you. It's just to keep you out of there. However, what I mean, it's as careful as you are, that definitely helps you out in terms of avoiding these type of things. So as a game master, of course, I'm going to give people some kind of, it's going to be obvious you're in hostile territory. For the most part. People also want to be able to survive them, and I get that too. So, I mean, there's a chance of survival. In different games have different mechanics, and of course, there's the saving throws, and in D&D type games, or some kind of reflexive actions. I think Ubiquity has a reflexive action, and other games have similar actions like that, where you've got a chance of survival or not getting quite so hurt by a trap. And then, here's the last one, which I don't have a problem with, but I understand people do, and this comes down to more of a game philosophy. Um, the idea that your death would not be meaningful or dramatic if you were killed by a trap. It'd be better to be die in a battle where you're battling for a cause or for you get the idea, where it's dramatic and it's cool. But games shouldn't necessarily always mirror real life. However, in this world where I have some kind of internal consistency and verisimilitude, you look to our real world, and there's people that have had deaths, and they weren't necessarily meaningful. There's an alarm for me to remind me to pay somebody something. That was meaningful. But sometimes it's not always great. I've had many characters die in very non-dramatic ways. I've lost many characters to traps. I'm okay with that. So that's kind of, I guess, a game philosophy decision. But to me, sometimes them's the breaks. And you didn't die in that really cool, meaningful manner that you hoped you did. You died in kind of a crappy one. But I don't have a problem with that because life is not always fair. Life is hard. So that's my take on them. And I'd like to hear your take on it as well. But be careful out there. There could be traps. You've been warned. Okay.